Your Majesty's servants humbly submit that Your Majesty's minister at the Court of Madrid should demand an immediate satisfaction for the outrages committed by Monsieur de Martinez, and that it would be proper, in order to support that demand, for the fitting out a squadron of ships of the line. Cabinet Minute, Lord Grenville to King George III, April 30th, 1790. When news of a possible war with Spain reached Lieutenant Vancouver, he was second in command of the Discovery. This newly built ship was preparing for a voyage to the South Pacific to find potential whaling stations, as well as to continue the survey of the Pacific Northwest coast. From age 13, Vancouver had served for 8 years as a midshipman on Cook's second and third expeditions to the Pacific. Officers who had learned their survey and navigational skills from Cook were an elite group. Consequently, Vancouver was ordered to join the Discovery after he returned from serving in the Caribbean. Due to the Spanish conflict, the Discovery was now to be accompanied by a naval force of 2 frigates sailing to Yuquot. Meanwhile, the Spanish had sent more ships and troops there to fortify their naval defenses against the British. In Europe, Spain and Britain prepared for war. By June, both rival fleets were off the coast of France. Spain hoped that France would help her fight Britain, but the French Revolution had been raging since 1789. Subsequently, France withdrew its support. Unwilling to fight Britain alone, in October 1790, Spain signed the first of 3 settlements with Britain, known as the Nootka Sound Conventions. With war averted, plans for the expedition focused on completing a detailed survey of the coast from latitude 30 to 60 degrees. Vancouver was now placed in command. He was also ordered to implement the details of the Spanish peace agreement at Yuquot. The Discovery departed along with a second survey ship, the Chatham, on April 1st, 1791. Many believed that a northwest passage south of the Arctic Circle existed along Cook's Inlet. Fur traders confirmed they had located the Juan de Fuca Strait, another possible route. Attempts to find a passage along inland rivers from the east were also ongoing. In 1792, Alexander Mackenzie followed the Peace River and finally reached the Pacific coast at Bella Coola in July 1793. However, it was not the navigable waterway they had hoped for. Vancouver began mapping the northwest coast in April 1792 at Discovery Bay in the Juan de Fuca Strait. That first summer, they surveyed Puget Sound and then the Salish Sea. It quickly became evident that the confusing network of islands and waterways could only be surveyed from small boats, a much harder, more time-consuming task than expected. Later that summer, they met 2 Spanish ships undertaking their own survey and agreed to share their survey data. Disappointed to find that none of the inlets provided any hint of a passage to the Atlantic, it eventually became clear they were circling a large island. They arrived at Yuquot in September. There, Vancouver agreed to collaborate with the Spanish surveyors to draw the first map of what they called Quadra and Vancouver Island. Quadra, after Captain Juan Francisco Bodega y Quadra, the commander sent to meet Vancouver. Captain Bodega y Quadra was himself an accomplished navigator, responsible for a lot of the Spanish coastal surveys. The 2 mariners quickly became friends, but they were unable to agree on the details of the Nootka Convention. Evidently, the 2 governments had different understandings. Vancouver was ordered to take possession of the land John Meares claimed to own at Yuquot. The Spanish argued that Meares had not bought any land, according to Chief Maquinna. They offered to hand over a small cove at Yuquot if, in exchange, Britain recognized Spain's territory extended beyond San Francisco to the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Vancouver refused. A final agreement was later signed in Europe in 1794. Yuquot was to be open to both nations, but wouldn't be settled by either. No indigenous communities participated or consented to this agreement. The survey continued. Originally planned for 2 years, the expedition would take 3, surveying in the spring and summer, then wintering in California and Hawaii. During his visits to Hawaii, Vancouver completed a detailed survey of the islands and also agreed with a council of island chiefs to make Hawaii a British protectorate. Vancouver resumed the survey at Restoration Bay in June 1793. They ended their second season at Cape Decision. In spring 1794, the survey began at 60 degrees north, Cook's Inlet, and finished at Port Conclusion on August 19th. They made a final stop at Yuquot before their journey home began, calling at Monterey, California, and Valparaiso, Chile on the way. They rounded Cape Horn in June, reached St. Helena by July, Ireland in September, and London by October 1795. After 4.5 years at sea, covering 65,000 miles, it was the longest British expedition on record. Vancouver's legacy would be the extremely accurate maps he created, 1,700 miles of one of the world's most complex coastlines. By applying nearly 400 British names to the landscape, the maps gave the impression that the Pacific Northwest coast was now British territory. While confirming there was no Northwest Passage south of the Arctic, Vancouver's map would also make the colonial occupation and exploitation of the region much easier in the decades to come.